Hi Jessica, hope you're doing well. First of all, congratulations for completing the class. I see you've posted the exhibit proposal, which is the final culmination of all the work. So that's fantastic that you've gotten this far. Um, and I think you achieved quite a bit in this course. This is the basic lighting course, and there'll be 3 or 4 lighting courses before you're done with the degree if you're in the associate program. And so you'll each one you'll improve each time. So I'm going to go through your proposal. I'll point out some things that can be improved, but in general, I just overall I'll say that you have improved in your ability to control light. I think it's the key thing to get the idea kind of embedded in your approach to photography that you are in control of the light and that you can use it to evoke emotion and describe the dimension of things. This cover actually came out quite strong, and it's some of your most creative work that you completed. I thought you did really did well in this assignment with good experimentation, playing with your focus and so on. A little bit, I think, in the post-production, I think you went maybe a little too far with the contrast and you kind of got a lot of blown out areas. It'd be nicer to see that little bit of an edge here, but overall it's good. So could improve it by just backing down a little bit on your contrast. You already have good saturation, so you don't need to bring it up too far. That's one thing to get used to when you're working is just to be careful with saturation and to realize you don't need to overdo it. In your statement, I think you've got some very good points here. You talk about the use of hard light and soft light and using from a different angle. Um, Definitely shadows can have emotional quality to them, and certainly you create that shadow with your light. You talk about putting a filter over the light. We actually call that light modifiers, just so you know, for your vocabulary, light modifiers. And that can be things like umbrellas, softboxes, and so on. A gel would be an actual filter, and a gel filter would change the color quality of the light. So overall, this paragraph is written well, and a couple little typos here and there, so be careful about that in the future. But overall, I think you've covered some good ground there with your text. So in these first couple of images, I want to point out a couple things that you may be aware of this already, but the wrinkles in the back are distracting for this image. So a couple ways to get around that. One is to move your subject out even farther from the background and then to use a more shallow depth of field, setting your lens like at 2.8 or f4 and then using perhaps a medium telephoto. That'll drop your background out of focus. Another thing would be to use seamless paper, which you'll be purchasing for the next class. In PH 202 we use seamless paper, and that of course completely take care of any wrinkles. Your lighting on this is basically split lighting. You're coming across and there's pretty much a line down the middle with the face. You've got half and half. It looks like it's natural window light from what I can tell. The lighting is the angle of light is pretty low if you've I'm not sure if you used your light or not, but you see that shadow from the nose, how it's going straight across. So generally speaking, if it's window light, of course, you can't control the height. But if this was your studio lamp, then you want to raise it so you're like above their head and looking down, more like, because I'm more like an angle like this, went corner to corner would be what you're looking for. I think a little bit too much on the contrast and the saturation. His hair is pretty brightly colored there, and also in the shirt, pretty bright colored. So I think I probably could back it off a little bit on the color saturation. Composition is done really well with the rule of thirds. Over here also nice composition. Here the lighting is natural outdoors and it's a softer diffuse light, so it's bringing out kind of the contrast in color and then the softer shapes of those objects. And then here you have also another perspective from above and against a more textured background. The lighting itself is not going to bring out the texture of the lighting that you're using. For these particular ones, a softer diffuse light, it looks like from a cloudy day. So that's, as you can see, there's very few shadows. The shadows are very minimal in this. And this image over here also has a similar effect as part of the light goes, is open shade light. Possibly use a reflector with this to help fill in the shadow, but this is a very pleasant and attractive lighting you've used. And we've got a little bit of an edge here on her shoulder, which must be some more light coming from the side, and that helps this to help her stand out from the background. Again, a little bit more shallower depth of field is going to allow your background to follow focus. In this case, I think a little cropping would help in the post-production. Just take that doorknob right out of there. You see how that improves things just to remove that out of the picture? It just keeps our focus more on her face. Always watch your backgrounds. Obviously, when you take the photograph, try to do it, but it's very easy to miss those things. So when you do see it in the darkroom, make sure to crop out, if you can, any background items. This is probably one of your best portraits because there's less things wrong with it. You've got this looks like, I'm pretty sure this is natural light because of the shadows that I'm seeing. It looks like a kind of a wide window. I'm looking at in her eyes. I'm seeing a large light source here on the left that's just above her head. So that could be a softbox or a window, but it seems like it could be a window. So we'll go with that. But you can see, compared to the image of the little boy, there's a little bit of diagonal on your shadow. See that right by the lip? So that's what we're looking for, even more so. And also that light triangle happening right here. Oops, happening right here on her cheek. You want to start getting that triangle, and that's how you get it, by having the light above her head angled down, and then slightly, with the light slightly going on to each side of the face. And then this other one, I think this was the one we're working with smooth surface, and I think this worked out well. The composition, I think, is quite strong in both of these, using the rule of thirds and this nice abstract shape of the blue versus the white and the wood background. Again, nothing distracting in either one of these images, and we've got enough detail. You see that right there by the edge, just this little bit by the hair right there? So we've got enough detail to shape from the background. You'll learn in the next class, when you start adding more lights, how to bring out the hair a little bit more, but this is really good for just a one light and reflector setup. Very well done. I like this one a lot because you've pulled her out more in front of the background. We don't have any really distracting wrinkles. So that's really well done. This is called broad lighting, where you're lighting from the side of the face that's turned toward the camera, and it tends to make the face look broader and then drop just a little bit into shadow. From what I can see in her eyes, it looks like we have a large window perhaps on the left side, and then I'm seeing like maybe a reflector helping illuminate the shadow side. So that's well done. There's enough ratio here. This is about a 1 to 5, maybe 1 to 8 lighting ratio. So this shows your ability to control that and manage your lighting ratios. Now, you've talked to us interesting about welcoming light, and I think that you have it in the next one. You have a kitchen shot too. So welcoming light it's not just the light itself, it's also the symbolic attachment that we have to the items we see here, the porch, the chairs, the window, and so on, the light coming from inside and out. So that helps to create the idea of welcoming rather than darkness. So that's part of that too. But this light is softer, kind of bleeding away, and also symbolizes, or is a symbol of, a light outside someone's home, right? So it symbolizes the idea of a welcoming light, leave the light on kind of narrative, if we want to add to that. And here you go, one in the kitchen. This image is okay as far as architectural work. I think if this is coming out of that assignment, and I know that you were catching up, and I haven't seen all your old assignments, so I'll provide some, well, actually it'll be just a grade rather than critique at this point, but I'm not sure how you constructed this, if you added in some of your strobe light or not. I'd have to go back and look at that assignment. It's got a couple distracting things like the paper towels in it, but overall the composition, I think, is well done, and you've balanced out the light from the window with light from indoors. And then you have this last one, the little boy, and you talk about soft light. Now again, we have the issue of the height of the light, and so the light needs to be raised up so you don't have that straight horizontal shadow. I think I would say probably, as far as sequencing goes, that I'm not completely sure why you separated the portraits with the objects. It adds variety, and I guess you're showing the different techniques. But other than that, I probably would have put maybe your strongest image at the end, which I would go with either this portrait or this portrait as being your strongest images. So Jessica, I think you've shown that you control the light. I'll be looking back at your work that was posted late. Hopefully it meets all the requirements and you'll be able to move on in the class. That's something to watch out for next class. Make sure that you meet all the deadlines. I know that online study and life sometimes don't mesh, but you are in an important program. The classes do go by quickly, and all these techniques you're learning now are things that you'll apply in your profession once you graduate. So it's really, really important to pay attention now, because let me tell you, you'll be asking yourself later, what was that technique that I learned? And so now's the time to really get it down pat and be ready when you graduate. All right, good luck in your next class, and hope you continue to do well.